happy and prosperous new year to the people of the Republic of Liberia. I'm excited to be in the program.
How has life been with you since 2012 to present, but beginning with the year 2020?
I'm excited, and I just want to tell the Almighty God thank you that I can be able to see this day, and many persons could not have. Unfortunately, I saw a friend and a sister in 2020 pass away. Honorable Mona Penamon, that was devastating for me, and it's a memory that cannot be lost. But again, that was the will of the Almighty God. So entering 2021 and not seeing all that around, it remains painful and leaves an indelible memory on my mind. So let's just tell God thank you. I hope this year we'll have a beautiful year.
I'm going to begin from the CDC angle, taking into consideration Honorable Gray is one of those founding members of the CDC coming down to the end of this year. Honorable Gray, give us a little history or a little synopsis about the CDC and the struggle so far up to 2020.
Basically, the CDC, I will say to everyone, the CDC is a great party. I must tell you this. And not only that the CDC is a great party, if you look at the historical foundation of the Mali Congress for Democratic Change, before the Coalition for Democratic Change, there were gallant men and women who stood in the vanguard and the advocacy for the establishment of a movement that will bring new breed of leader to power and ensure that the transformation of the Liberian state is very important by taking our destiny into our own hands. And I ensure that our people will be able to benefit from the resources of the country. It was a long-winded fight, especially not breaking into the national theater. One of the old politicians or the veteran politician, typical Liberian politician, and breaking Ambassador Wida from what people say the soccer field into the national political theater. It was a great challenge. A challenge where, in fact, the bigger portion of the campaign in 2005 was being led by young and exuberant people who had graduated from universities, especially the local universities in Liberia, the international universities in the United States and Europe. So it was a great experience. It was a fight. It was a challenge. We went through in 2005. We agreed that yes, they took the election for us, but we stay high age as an added advantage. And our mission was not to plunder or push the country into chaos. So we graciously accepted the results in 2005, and again 2011. There was a repeat of history, though there were protest action, but we then revert to the jungles of the Republic of Liberia, the other elections of 1985 and 1997 elections results that caused chaos in our country. So now we in authority, the best thing to do as a party and as a people with the amalgamation of forces and a constructive coalition is to do the people's job and do it adequately. But the CDC is a great experience for many of us.
The CDC is a great experience. What are some of the reasons that key members of the party are resigning? Like the likes of Phil Dixon, Isaac Van Cooper, Jemima Wilcom, and those groups, they now holding on.
Some of the conversations today will be long. With all fairness, the ruling party should not be having people who will be resigning for the governing party. When we were in opposition, people were being recruited from the opposition community. The CDC almost went into Taka. It took few of us in the vanguard of the struggle to maintain the existence of the CDC by dealing with the grassroots majority and foot soldiers putting them into the theater, crisscrossing the country as young people. So we held our grounds. I think what we need to do as a political institution, we need to bring everyone back. We have people who are auxiliaries, who established auxiliaries of this party, besides the CDC, structured in Liberia and South. We have CDC Europe, for example. We have CDC USA, for example. We have Liberians who put their life on the line They have Tobam, Phil, Dixon, Jemima Wood, Colley, etc. I believe that we have to reach out to them. They are very important in the power march of our country. They were there in the revolutionary struggle that brought in this government to power. The disagreements, I don't think they are so big that we cannot resolve. Even the CDC USA chairman, Dr. Nipson, former chairman of the CDC USA, kept the party together after 2005 elections. We have to reach out. We have to reach out to our local base. We have to reach out to our international base. We have to sort of debate ourselves as national leader of the Democratic Coalition for Democratic Change. And that's why I've asked the question, and the question has to be answered through a frank discussion internally within the CDC. We came to power through a coalition and a constructive collaborative efforts. We need to sit and ask ourselves, for example, some of our friends who came from the Liberty Party, for example, I just gave them a party, for example, Ben Sami, for example, the former chairman of the Liberty Party, the Musa Belete, for example, a stalwart of the Liberty Party who endorsed us, for example, like Ben Said, for example, from another political institution, the James Corley, the Amina Conde, the rest of the guys, outside of the coalition and collaborators who endorsed us, who one way or the other contributed towards the ascendancy, to our friends who were in the media landscape out there, in the USA or the cyberspace, who fought for us. There is a need for us to reach out, no matter what the situation, no matter what the indifference. It's about time that will bring everybody on board. It's about time that we talk to them. The subgroups. I mean, for the CDC, we even talk to Mr. Group.
Do you think this coalition is going taking into consideration the vice president was not in support of Bond County Senatorial candidate from the CDC?
We have to resolve that, and it has to be resolved immediately. And as we go to the election in 2023, the Democratic Coalition for Democratic Change will have to do everything to put up this axe together. They are to the heads of the movement. Though ambassador, we are president, we are the sustainer of the coalition. But mind you, they are constituent political institution in the coalition. The NPP, for example, in the coalition. The LPDP in the coalition. We're now talking to Senator Prince Johnson, for example, who is collaborating with the coalition also. So these leaders will have to sit on the table. They have that mandate from the Liberian people. And I will encourage them to sit on the table and resolve whatsoever that is internal, whatsoever disagreement within the next 2 to 3 months. That's my public suggestion. Because
2023, not see Vice President Joy Howard Taylor on the ticket of the CDC.
I don't want to say that Vice President Joy Howard Taylor will not be on the ticket of the CDC. Usually the issue of the vice turnover, that determination is made by the turnover of the party in consultation with the governing council, the National Executive Committee of the coalition. So I just want the coalition leaders in the constituent political institution. We have to sit on the table, call a spade, for the frank discussion among themselves. The whole issue about the vice president agreement and disagreement will have to be resolved. And that has to be resolved. If that is not resolved, I predict trouble with them in the future for the coalition. Because the vice president, remember, that's the second most important person in the country in terms of the governance level of our country, in terms of hierarchical order, even of ascendancy. That's the position of the vice president. I mean, yes, the vice president will say is nominal, but in terms of ascendancy, in terms of, that's a former senator also. So what we need to do is that we need to sit on the table with the vice president. We need to sit on the table with Ernst. We need to sit on the table with Prince Johnson. We need to sit on the table with other people. Even people from the CDC who admire the coalition, they can recruit them, we'll bring them to sit on the table and have frank exchange of ideas. Because winning elections in Liberia, history has shown that there must be a plurality, of political or amalgamation of political forces, not just the Congress of Democratic Change, but other members collaborate. So it's extremely important that in the next 3 months, we have to resolve this. If this is not resolved in the course of this year, I predict trouble in 2023. Adult people go their separate ways, and the new coalition is constructed. All people remain in the coalition, and forge ahead in one voice and the final march of the country as well.
Honorable Gray, do you think the population from 2005 is still the population now that the CDC has?
I know you'll be running to maybe the just another election, but there's a difference between the presidential election and the legislative election around the world. The taste of the Liberian is gradually changing when it comes to legislative election. By 2005, many presidents voted on institutional line. Yeah, nowadays people are voting for different reasons. And I'll give you an example. In 2017, we won the election. But in 2017, for example, we won Sano County in an absolute and extreme majority. The two representatives that won were not members of the CDC. We won the presidential election. The two representatives were not members of the CDC at all. We've won Grand Jury in any county in the history of this country. Again, we only have one representative in Grand Jury by then, and one senator or two senators. So you can see that people vote for their representatives and senators for different reasons. We have 17 districts in Montserrat County. Of the 17, we won 8. Of the 17 districts in Montserrat County, we won 8. Technically, 8 to 9. Okay, so you can see that while it's true that Montserrat is also a stronghold, but the CDC did not win all of the seats in Montserrat County as a stronghold, but we won the presidential election. There were districts that the president won in Montserrat County were low because they didn't win, for example, like Hassan Piazzolla district, for example, like Richard Kuhn, for example, district, for example, like Yeke Korba, who won a district, for example. Those are districts that won at the presidential level. So make no mistake, people must make no mistake that because of the senatorial election, don't get me wrong, the senatorial election also has some bearing, okay, some effect on the presidential election. It's an established type of role for the state and play. So what we need to do as an institution, we need to go in-house. You ask me a question, I will be blunt. Are people disgruntled internally within the CDC? Yes, people are very disgruntled within the CDC. How do we settle that disgruntlement within the institution? Is very simple. How do we take care of these kids that are on the street, for example? How do we take care of these wayward boys, these disadvantaged boys, some of them who run water boys, for example? What programs do we put them in? For example, can we construct 100 homes and take the Zobos out the street, or 50 homes, and where we can have vocational, technical, and academic program for them? And when they leave, they can get involved into rural rehabilitation, construction, some of the projects, home rehabilitation and construction, some of the housing projects, to keep them off the street. Okay, once they are rehabilitated, we need to focus on that to a greater extent. So the issue of the popularity of the coalition for democratic change, as of 2005 up to now, or 2017 up to now, the party is strong, but the party needs to resuscitate and rejuvenate.
I think you had some disenchantment that led to your resignation as the National Vice Chair for Political Affairs.
Actually, let me say this to you. No, I've not had disenchantment within the coalition. I will believe that if I stay in the fight, and I win. That's what I believe. Okay, I actually reluctantly accepted serving the party at the hierarchical order many years ago. First, in 2012, when I won, in 2011, when I became a representative, and then I made a commitment that I didn't want to serve as National Secretary General. I was the National Secretary General of the party election in 2011. So I didn't want to serve as National Secretary General of the party. Being in the legislature, for example, and serving as National Secretary General of the party, there would have been a conflict of interest. I was fighting a whole administration. There is a Salih-led administration, and at the same time, there was internal indifference within the CDC. So I didn't want the legislature, because at that critical juncture, they were plot to expel me from the legislature, suspension. So once the legislature takes a decision during those days, and if the CDC disagree with the decision, it means the Secretary General of the CDC, who is a lawmaker, will have to either stand by the party, articulate the party rules, or stand by the legislature. So you could get expelled. For example, the decisions were taken in the executive session, and you voice it up. Okay, or the party got to know, and the party issue a statement. Who issues the statement is the Secretary General. So by 2012, I've said, hands off, other people should ascend to the position. Maybe I can play an eminent role within the institution. Then again, when the vacancy was created in 2017. Chairman Mobile Moore and other members of the National Executive Committee requested me that I should be able to take the vice chair for political affairs. If you ask him, and he wants to be truthful to you, many of them I told him, no, I don't want to be ready to play that kind of role. Other people play the role. And then I accepted it. And at a point in time, I thought it was important that other people were sent to the position. Okay, yeah. But mind you also, internally there will all be agreements and disagreements. So it was not one of those disagreements that I decided that I would resign as vice chair for political affairs of the institution. I thought I've said, and I've said properly, even though I become campaign spokesperson of the party, Mobile had called me and said, oh, I wrote your name down. The chairman had called me, so you can leave. I said, oh, Mobile, I don't think so. But he said, oh, great. I think you're the best person. People listen to you. The fighting forces, soldiers of the movement listen to you, respect you. So just be campaign spokesperson. So the position I found myself in first at the national legislature is a strategic and heroic position. Take for example, I'm Liberia's head of delegation at the African Caribbean Pacific and the Joint European Parliament with the ACP. So I'm Liberia's head of delegation, making representation at the continental level for Liberia. And I have the platform, I have the stage. I'm the acting chairman of the executive now. I have the platform, I have the stage. That's the second most important position. I'm the chairman of Maritime. Okay, and I'm a member of the Committee on Investment. I'm a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. So I have one of the greatest national platforms in the history of the country, dealing with internationalists and dealing locally. So do I need a party position to sell myself? No, I don't need a party position to sell myself. I think a new breed of people or other people who are not incorporated should lead the institution.
You serve as the official spokesperson for the just ended special meeting senatorial election. And in recent times, CDC, like you said, they still have their popularity, but in recent times they have lost the senatorial seat of North Carolina County twice. We got Paulita Lee, she lost to that alone. And you also came with Representative Thomas Falah, and you also lost to Senator Delon. In majority of the counties, CDC was not successful in winning the senatorial seat. Is it because of some disenchantment or people are now holding on?
No, let me say this to you. The CDC, from its political establishment, going into 3 critical elections, 2005, 2011, and 2017. The CDC has now won more than 4 senatorial seats. Let me repeat. Out of the 30 seats, the CDC has now won more than 4 senatorial seats in a single election. In 2005, we have Hannah Brent, we have George Musufuno, and then we have Roland Campbell from Mangini County. Those were our 3 senators. Okay. In 2014, okay, then you know we have the current president, Josh Weah. Okay, we have St. Geraldine Bushari, who took over Hannah Brent. Okay, we have Marshall Dennis and Peter Coburn. Okay, so that's what we have 4. Again, in this election, we have 4. So the historicity, people have to follow the history of the victory of a party in a particular election. So a lot of people don't know what I'm saying. That the CDC has not won more than 4 or 5 seats in any senatorial election in this country. But I come to the 2020 election, the May 10 senatorial election. The way the candidates were being vetted, or the way the commitments were being made, is a factor. I give you an example. We have city senators who were not original members of the CDC or the Coalition for Democratic Change by 2017. We have taken over the legislature. The president needed his programs and policies to be executed. Members of the executive of the government were being appointed, the formation of the government. In the formation of the government, there was a quid pro quo, what we call political reciprocity, give and take, where the leadership of the country had to consult the senators. They do confirmation yearly, okay, and some members of the House of Representatives in terms of appointments, especially local appointments to other counties. Many of those local appointments, some of those local appointments were consultation across the country with opposition lawmakers and all that. So we constructed a better relationship with people in the Constituent Assembly in terms of confirmation hearing, in terms of the government programs and policy. And some of those people had 2 to 3 years to go to the election, the formation of the government. So we make commitments. Some of those commitments, for example, a 10 in Lofa County. Okay? And we live up to those commitments that we made to these people. Riverside County, for example, we made a commitment to the seat of senator. Okay, we made a commitment to Benson Bafine, for example, foreign minister who supported us in 2017. Okay, we made a commitment to Henry Yara, who supported Joseph Boagai in 2017, who ran in Bon County, for example. We made a commitment to Grand Kitman County seat of senator, for example, who came Victor Watson, who came to the Capitol building and decided to join the CDC, etc. Okay, so we made all of those commitments. So there are commitments in this. We made commitment to Prince Johnson, for example, in Nima County. Okay, so these commitments that were being made saw the emergence of candidates. And those are some of the factors that people consider to see whether the CDC won on the basis of those commitments or not. So those were the commitments we made. So we had to live in accordance with the commitment. Bombay County, for example, former Speaker Ellen Starr, the standard bearer of the LPDP, who is going to challenge him in Bombay County, for example. Okay, I just gave you some examples. Okay, so Babolo, we have our own mayor Afrakobu, for example, in Babolo County, for a representative. Okay, we have Christian Che, for example, in Sano County, and we have James Barney from the NPP. Okay, in Maryland County, Zopeno, we took Zopeno in Grand Jide County, we are in there. So on the basis of all of those, that vested political interest, what or political reciprocity, candidates were being selected. So was that a factor too for our own performance or not? We need to sit on the table and look at those realities. Okay, so in Montserrat County, yes, it came from the Congress of Democratic Change, and actually it came directly from the Congress of Democratic Change. So some of those areas that we didn't win were on the basis of the political commitments that we made to some senators. And Ambassador, the party was very committed to ensure that once we made those commitments, we should carry those people. So that's what we did. And I gave you an example in 2014. 2014, about 14 representatives committed themselves, including CDC representative, to supporting Ambassador to become senator in 2014. Okay, so those who stay with the CDC, not necessarily join the CDC, but stay with the CDC, those who endorse the Ada Lawrence, for example, we made a commitment and we did that in 2017. The William Dakia, for example, we made a commitment, we talked in like Bill Twiley, for example, that was a member of the Unity Party. We made a commitment because of 2014 commitment that he made to Ambassador, we were talking in 2017. Like Gabriel Ninkan, for example, we also made a commitment to him in Montserrat County. So the CDC have demonstrated a history of making commitments, sticking to the commitment. They didn't win, but we fulfilled our commitment. Okay, so if that's why people are saying that the CDC is unpopular, then it's a dangerous analysis by them, and they are living in dreamland to say that the CDC is unpopular. Because if you look at the numerical strength of the CDC in the House of Representatives, we won, out of the 15 counties, we won 14 of the counties in 2017. But the counties we won, some of the counties we didn't win the single representative seat. Some of the counties, we won with absolute majority at the presidential level. Okay, but we didn't win seats for representative seats or senatorial seats, for example. So as a result of that, okay, people cannot use the 2020 election as a barometer and single measuring tool to declare that the CDC is unpopular. But what I must admit to, we have to face the reality that some of our people are very disenchanted, extremely disenchanted. We need to handle that. But I must also admit to that we've lost grip on some of the people who brought to the coalition. The ruling party should be attracting the people, that some of the people who came to are going away. Okay, now, the chairman has a responsibility, or the national leadership of the party has a responsibility. The responsibility to go after those who left the
This is
institution.
the problem from the
A
national.
responsibility, I'm talking about the party has a responsibility. The party also has a responsibility, the government has a responsibility. So because mind you, now government job is not the only way out. So the party, the national party has a responsibility to go after these people, hold consultation with them, okay, ensure that some of these people don't leave, and become the bridge between the government and the individuals that are appointed in the government to try to resolve some of the issues. It's very significant. Whether we like it or not, we see the TD has campaigning throughout the country. You saw that. There was a senator who went to Bomi County, or in the Bon County, or in the Grand Bassa County, there was not a vast senator. It was not even the leader of the LPDP who was campaigning for himself in Bomi County. So we didn't have that avalanche of uniformity in terms of moving throughout, okay, the country. In Montserrat, internally, there's a need for a discussion. There were some mistakes that were being made in Montserrat County. And like I said, you know, I'm a brown guy. A ruling party has had a trump card. When we launched the Blitzkrieg on SVP, that was the close of the election. Politically, just by perception, and subsequently established fact, we should not have allowed our opponent, because I advise to take the last day. Yes, the last day, I must admit, that was the card you had. You had a trump card. All indication from the CPP campaign wrong. The guy was weary, they were dejected, they were tatas. They didn't want to put up a strong fight. I talked to people internally who were even supporting Darius Dayton. They thought it was the end of the game.
So
Okay,
giving
but
Darius
that last day, no need of it. No, everyone wanted to close on the last day politically. When I saw the organized media strategy from CPP in Montserrat County on that last day, Darius Dayton just started with maybe 500 persons or 1,000 persons. When they were blown out of proportion, that tens of thousands of people, and with the live broadcast, some people were just jumping on the road. And they were joining the crowd. Some people made a decision on the last day. So in the CDC, one of the things I've said to the leadership of the CDC, I'm saying to the government cycle of our country, the politicians must make the political decisions. The economists must make the economic decision. The social decision must be made by those who understand those aspects of life. So there must be a clear-cut delineation between those who will pray for the country and those who will make the political decisions for the country and those who will make the economic decision for the country. But when you have those who are making the economic decision for the country, making political decision for the country, or you have those who are making political decision for the country, making economic decision for the country, internally within the city, it's a problem. The first thing first, I want to be blunt. I'm not running away from that. We had to merge the finance campaign team with the national campaign team.
Wow.
Okay? Because the Canada jump-started its own outreach, okay, in the absence of the announcement of a national campaign team. So the guys were there. Now, the faces should have been on the front line. At every point in time, the results, the strategy. So when you enter, for example, 12th Street, at the CDC 1 12th Street, for example, in my district, the CDC, I know 1 12th Street. Whether legislatively or whether person. Why waste your time? Today, father comes, the guy, after 3 days, the same guys go and give Darius Dayton a key. Okay? So some of the political strategies, okay, for me, some of the strategies were not perfect. And you know, I don't mince my words. I don't have my words. Okay? There was a point we had to struggle. Even a campaign spokesperson, there was a point. The candidate should have been given to the politician to make political decisions. When the candidate will go on the radio station, how the candidates will be script, for example. The candidate did not enter into some of the greatest radio platforms. Okay, the OKFM platform, for example, Spoon FM, the KMTV platform, for example. They were fighting politically. Our candidate were fighting developmental-wise.
Why do you think he was
There was a difference.
so afraid?
No, I don't think the candidate was afraid. The candidate is very eloquent. We have some internal disagreement on the appearance of the candidate. Okay, no, the candidate is good. If you follow the candidate debate in the legislature from 2005 also, some of you who are legislative report about it, candidate spoke well. The candidate campaigned. Okay, so the candidate was showing to the Liberian people that I've constructed a school, for example. I've given scholarship, for example, but they don't go fighting politically. So we needed a political fight to take it heads on and dismantle his capacity to think. Okay, so I'm not a candidate, so I was only the spokesperson. So for me, that was not a good political strategy by us. Yeah, people thought that it was good. Well, yeah, the Liberian people were just the development. They were in Montserrat County, it's a political fight. It's a propaganda warfare, whether you like it or not.
Father had a strong team that belonged. Taking into consideration you were part of the team.
No, he had. Yeah, no, I'm saying
president
no. I'm saying yeah, he had an organized movement. But that's what I said. The politicians should have been given to make the political decision. The economists should have been there to make the economic decision, whether you like it or not. And in fact, when the results came out that night, I spoke to Father about 4 a.m. in the morning and Chairman Morgan. I said from my scientific analysis and looking at the districts and looking at the results and some of the figures that are coming up, I can safely say that we've not won the election. And I must admit, the Father said, can I make a concession statement? That morning after the election by 4 a.m. I said to him, it's a good idea, but you know it's a party. It's a political institution that brought you to the table. You need to call the standard bearer, and then I put the chairman on. The chairman also considered. So we had that in mind. It was a matter of time that the candidate should have made a concession statement to concede. But I have sent out the signal to water down the emotions, the sentiments, and whatsoever, because we got to protect the peace and stability. That's what I posted on my page, and I said the people have spoken. The masses have spoken, and this is democracy. It was a clear-cut signal and message that it was over.
Just before we go
Okay.
before we get to the legislature, I guess this will be live and raw. Is the CDC taking into consideration a statement made by the chairperson of the CDC concerning West Nation if Montreal is now one by the state?
It's a choice. I always tell people, sometimes in political combativity, people made a lot of statements. It was a political time. For example, Senator Dillon said if we can prove that he received $10,000, he will step down. But we proved that he received over $20,000. And he went on the spoon and admitted that $2,000 or more were given to his office staff, and the rest of the money was given to him. Though he said it was not medical, but he would receive the money. He admitted to receiving money. He said he would resign. That was a challenge. So sometimes during the heat of what we call political combativity, statements will be made. It's for the chairman to make that decision. It's for Sir Joseph to make that decision. For example, people are running to say, Carlos Gray said, he will resign. I didn't say that. Okay? No, I never said that. I try my best to lay what I say. So the citizen cannot bring pressure to man on the chairman. Even if there should be some structural issue where you need to build on the capacity of the chairman, etc. Okay, it's some of the issues we have to focus on. We have to focus on the governance process of the country. We have to look into the party and have a debate, strong exchange of ideas, call a spade a spade. It doesn't matter who gets or not. I can tell you that for sure. And one of the things that I want the citizens to do is that there's no need that party leaders should not be compensated. We need to pay our dues. We need to pay our dues and ensure that the entire party structure is on the table. We need to do that for the effective running and movement of the institution. We are the governing body. We pay dues when we're in opposition every year. Lawmakers are in 5,000 in this totality. And when we're in opposition for 6 years, citizen lawmakers were paying standard took the biggest chunk of the survival of the institution, ordinary parties, and we have different groups, okay, in the party. So it's about time that we have party leaders on period. It's about time that we put money together and complete the vocational and technical school on the party ground. We got to take the party, we need party headquarters through all the county, in the 15 counties. We need our chairman, we need our district coordinators to become very operational. If the mother box will give to each and every one of them, the 73 coordinators, we need to do that. We need to make the party very functional. And we have like to be frank with you, we have 6 months to go. If this year ends, whether you're from the CDC, whether you're from the opposition, whether you're in the legislature, if you cannot do something, the voters' mind will be there this year. It's a decisive moment for each and every one of us.
We are in conversation this morning with Representative Akara Moses Gray of District 8 Montserrat County, and he's giving us a overview of a brief history from the CDC angle up to the just end the special meeting senatorial election. We are about now to go to the legislature. Honorable Gray, you have been in the legislature for a couple of years. What have been your own role in executing your three cabinet responsibilities so far?
I want to say that lawmakers now don't have 3 cardinal functions.
I mean,
The function,
the Constitution.
the functions are 1 to 4.
But
There's a humanitarian function. And nobody will make that mistake and say that the people don't want you to
that
say.
is exclusive.
No, excuse me. I want to say this to you. There is a humanitarian function. And whether you like it or not, demonstrate. There is a function of demand that the people want us to build schools, that the people want us to build like trains, that the people want us to construct part of our house, that the people want us to empower the local health centers and build clinics and turn it over to the communities. And I will demonstrate that. And that is by law. That for the fact that lawmakers in the 52nd legislature amalgamated forces and established what we call the county development funds. The essence of the county development funds is to contribute and bring development to the people through the legislature. The essence of the social development fund that is legislated by law, captured in the budget. It provides a full authority to lawmakers. Not only that, but our legislative projects. You know what are the legislative projects, for example? Okay? Besides the county development funds, besides the social development fund, the legislative project is captured in the budget by law. So, all of those projects are intended to subsidize national government effort by either building a school that are built in Solomon, by either constructing a clinic, giving it to the government. I'm not talking about your personal clinic. So, for anybody to begin to argue that lawmaker functions are not to help to pay school fees, are not to help to rehabilitate roads, then it is an argument of naivety. And even in Monserrato, Senator, they don't demonstrate that. For the fact that he says that if getting $15,000, I will take 5,000 and 10,000 will go back to the people. What is the essence of the 10,000? The essence of the 10,000 is to rehabilitate latrines or construct. The essence of the 10,000 is to pay school fees. The essence of the 10,000 is to begin to build some community projects. The essence of the 10,000 is to send someone pregnant woman to the clinic. The essence of the 10,000 is to ensure that when someone's sick, you will help them. So, what is the essence of the 10,000? So we ourselves, as lawmakers, we have agreed to the demands, the whips and caprices of the Liberian people demand that lawmakers must have a full function. And we introduce that function to the people. We introduce it to them. For example, when Chancellor was there, he spent a lot of money in election. My friend and brother Edwin Swing just persist in 2005, he whisked it. Okay? So the people are getting used to a new political culture. And that political culture has demanded each and every lawmaker throughout the length and breadth of the Republic of Nigeria, each and every lawmaker, to spend some part of what you make to the people. So that's a full function. Anybody want to take the debate, I can take the debate legally by capturing the county development funds in the budget. What the essence of it? The essence of it is not for the executive to determine a project in the district. It's for you and your people to determine a project. Why would a lawmaker be determining a project and not the executive? Because the people have made that demand and has been captured in the budget. The legislative project is different from the county development funds. Why? We got scholarship funding. Why do you think lawmakers, when I went to the legislature in the 50th legislature in 2012, the money there for scholarship, how much? 2,000 US, or 1,000 US. And then they went up to 2,000 US annually. So why do you think that 2,000 USA captured in the budget for local scholarship? If it is not your function, why do you capture it in the budget? Why you can't give it to national government and say, we're not going to pay children's school fees. We're not going to build schools. We're not going to subsidize some school when teachers are not paid, for example. Okay? We're not a humanitarian institution, for example. Okay? So that faulted argument by people on the sidewalk is trash. They're in creation and doing for failure. In terms of representation, people put that in terms of representation. Okay? Because you're representing your people, direct communications, for example, on the legislative floor. So yes, we've been good in our oversight. We've been good in our representation since 9 years now. And I can tell you some of the things we did in our oversight. For example, I was chairman on the governance committee. I presided over the passage of the Code of Conduct bill. We started introducing the Code of Conduct bill. I presided over the passage of the creation of the Liberian Revenue Authority. The authority that generates revenue for the power match of our country, that have to pay civil servants that make determination for government, for nationally sponsoring projects throughout the country. It was through my oversight as chairman on the governance committee, also the committee on ways, means and finance and judiciary, the governance bill. So to create employment opportunity for Liberians also, the Liberian Revenue Authority bill came to my committee. That's my oversight. Also the creation of the Ministry of Finance. Okay, what you call development and planning, responsible for development and responsible for planning. Okay, that Amara Kone became his first minister. It's through my oversight that that entity was being created. So even when the Salib-led administration is boasting of development, for example, have we not contributed to the passage of that bill and presiding over that bill through my oversight? There would have been no Ministry for Development, Finance for Development and Planning. There would have been no, there would not been a merger of the Ministry of Planning and the old Ministry of Planning, the old Ministry of Finance to create a new ministry. So we have that oversight responsibility as a committee chairman. Some of the bills we submitted uncountable bills. Okay? Like I said, the governance, like I said, the Code of Conduct bill, that today people are claiming that they want to amend. We are the progenitor in terms of presenting and sponsoring it to the legislature. There's an executive bill, but we sponsor it. We tweeted that bill. We ensured that that bill was passed. So other people are saying it's a good bill, but we need to add this. Fair enough. Bills are being amended. For example, I wanted a bill that I call the Democracy Sustainability Act, the DSA. I submitted it, where political institutions will be given certain finances from the state, okay, to create a level internal playing field in the political aspect of the country. Because the governing party will always have the financial advantages, whether you like it or not, then that's the reality. So we started this bill under President Ellen Johnson, the House of Senate passed it. I mean, the House of Representatives passed it, the Senate passed it, but then politics will play on it. Okay, the bill on nepotism, for example, first time in the history of the country I submitted that bill. And what we did is that we amalgamated that bill into the Code of Conduct. So when people talking about the issue of nepotism, it's like I was great.
But that nepotism bill is not working.
No. The first thing is the implementation, whether you like it or not, it's part of the Code of Conduct. Okay? And nepotism is restricted in terms of definition. It doesn't go to cousins, it doesn't go to people who live in your household, it goes directly to the immediate family members. The immediate family member, you cannot appoint your brother as a government official, you can appoint your sister, your father, your mother, and your children. You cannot appoint them. Okay? Under this government, I will not say where the president has appointed his children or appointed his brothers, for example. They don't say they don't work in government. Don't get me wrong, the bill didn't say so. But the bill said you should not appoint them. So I'm not to appoint my wife in my office, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, I'm not to appoint as a government official or any appointed official on the other end, including the president. So it does not forbid you from working like President said, you appoint your sons. One at NSA, the other one at NOCA, for example. No, that is forbidden under the Code of Conduct when it comes to the issue of nepotism in the Code of Conduct. So let our bill to establish a national children's hospital, for example. Okay, who are pediatricians, being trained, for example. But the fact of the matter is that the bill was passed in the House. When the bill went to the Liberian Senate, my first time, there was a debate because people didn't want our children war. JFK, the Japanese sponsor it. People felt that Akaro's drill had taken the credit. So they asked, they said, well, we can take a bunk out there. I said, yes. My initial suggestion was that we use the old maternity center. It's very essential to have a national maternity children hospital in this country. It's very important. It should not be all. Look at the maternity center. There's no maternity center in Liberia. What many persons were being born, history is being destroyed, for example. So, yes, we saw the issue of pay cut. It was through my instrumentality. Let me repeat. Through communication, we sat on the floor of the House of Representatives. The lawmakers pay have been cut in the House of Representatives to 40%. 40%, 35 to 40% pay cut. Okay? When you put all our benefit together, take home, net, it was like 8,600 besides the gas that was $2,225. We did a comprehensive cut. Now we get the 4,700 and some more United States dollars, and then equivalent of almost like 1,000 United States in like $3. So for 8,000 net, 8,600 cut. Okay. It was not as a result of anybody advocating and passing around running on the line. It was a result of a communication that we wrote on the legislative floor that was driven into a policy issue. Subsequently, the IMF came in. That's how lawmakers got their salary in the House of Representatives.
Honorable Gray, what was your, or why is your agenda for, or what was your agenda for the year 2020 at the House of Representatives?
My agenda for the year 2020, for example, like you talk about pay cut, that was one of my agendas for the year 2020. Okay, then the harmonization issue came. Okay, that's one of my greater agenda for the year 2020, and that was a very big achievement where people around the country were crying that look, people pay have been caught, especially in the House of Representatives, the Senate. I mean, the message was not sent across properly. Well, look, let me say this to you. One of the greatest achievements that we had for 2020, I thought back as 2018. My mission in the House was to help stabilize the legislative field. If you notice, and you go to your live broadcast, you know, there were moments that I had to move across the floor to keep the floor still. Okay, talking to our colleagues across the aisle, constructing the bipartisan approach. Okay, multi-partisan approach was speaking to people across the floor. I became the majority whip, or the leader for the constructive majority, even us out of the CDC. And we have to stabilize the flow. Today you talk about the bill on tourism that on the snow that I introduced in 2020. Okay, we showed that that bill was passed in the House of Representatives, and the Liberian Senate called also on that bill, which is a major victory for the Republic of Liberia, an extreme major victory. Besides advocacy, there's some things in the community we don't love to talk about. Sport TV helped us in that direction too. We did a construction of a home in our district down Nine Street. Our hands went down to some extent. We think that we want to do a construction of another help in that direction in the Satan Plumco community, precisely the home called Quartet with fire. And today now the Nine Street home, the family, the friends, relatives, including myself, including I hope you can take your camera there and see what we did. The cost was $20,000 United States dollars. I don't want to talk about what we gave to our communities. I mean, I won't talk much about what we give to our people in terms of the food distribution, the coronavirus COVID food. To a greater extent, our district benefited to a greater extent. Not all of the communities, they still need to serve some of the communities in that area. So we kept the flow still. But I know this 2021. The legislature will be with us. Some of my colleagues in the executive branch of government may not talk to me necessarily, and I don't wish for speech. What I wish for is to do the best thing. So we have to help the governance process of our country.
How is the people of District 8 coping with their leadership?
The people of District 8 will be friendly with you. They are very respectful group of people to me. The politics in District 8 never ends. District 8 is the most political district in the history of the country for many reasons. We have the avalanche influx of people, 5 universities and colleges. We have the highest number of ministries and agencies, all industry commerce. They are Tyson for people debate different issues, various issues in the district. But this year, as they have with MAC, we'll do more concentration on many of our district activities. You know, the last 3 years, we've not had, not just district or legislative projects for the last 3 years. County social development funds have been very slow. Contractors have been owed 100%. Ellington City Administration, but also they have $4 billion. I have not given $4 to $5 billion to 100% city. Contractors did some projects. Some of the projects they didn't complete it. Some of the projects they completed in our electoral district. If the money comes, you have to be paid. So we inherited that from the past administration. Okay, yeah, we fight in district number 8, but we speak to a brother still with one voice when it comes to the separate interests of our district. And some of our areas have had challenges in terms of transformer challenges. And the fact of the matter is that some of those transformer, the lands have been overcrowded, power theft is a big challenge. Community leaders will have to help in that direction. We have to be very robust. Okay, our roads to Williston are good. Only few roads in our district, like the Slavery Road, the Johnson Street Road coming down to the Raleigh Market. It is my hope that before our tenure ends, we have to concentrate on those roads. For example, the government is doing some things in our district, like Charleston, they build some water tank area to ensure that the supply of water. You know, for a very long time, for our San Miguel area, Charleston and I have very problem with water. Okay, running water in the Charleston, dominated water and some of the areas. So we have to work.
I know your wife who as lawmakers, there were money printed in this country that you were the 16 billion, 25 million, and recently 4 billion was printed. Now, the central bank is requesting, because of the shortage of US and Nigerian dollars, they will print additional 7.5 billion, to commensurate with what's that take?
The money will be printed.
According to them, the legislature is voting on that.
The money will be printed. The legislature is holding on to nothing. The money will be printed. The question here is not just about the printing of the money. And I listened to the finance minister last night, he also alluded to the facts. The current composition of the House of Representatives has been the best print of economics or bankers in the history of the country. Whether for the ruling party, whether for the opposition party. For example, Richard King, Dixon Sibu, Hassan Kiazuru, Matthew Zaza, Dopo, Tampleware. We have some of the best creams. During this break, the legislature have been, the House of Representatives have been in serious consultation with the central bank and local banking institutions, on the final. In fact, the speaker established what we call an economic analysis committee made of some of the best cream of people in the House of Representatives. We've been working the world this week. People don't know about that. We've been calling the central bank governor in. We've been calling the banking institution, GT Bank, the Echo Bank, the Global Bank, the rest of the bank, that leaders in whatsoever. We've been raising caution. We've been inviting some business people. We've been raising caution on the issue of the Liberian dollar being kept. We all have analyzed and agreed that people are keeping the money, whether they're economic sabotage, etc. What are the solutions to that? It's not just printing money. We passed a new law to give the central bank a greater authority that within 3 years, they can print an amount of money once within 3 years to replace liquidated damages, for example, they have to refer to the legislature. We passed on a resolution to print $30 billion. We passed on 2 resolutions. I think the public need to get this clear. The $4 billion working with the IMF, the US Embassy, the European Union, etc., and the government of the Republic of Liberia and the legislature, will print 4 billion Liberian dollars. Okay, to get rid of the immediate development, additional money on the market. We signed a resolution, concur with the Liberian Senate, and that was done. In that process, we also, in the House of Representatives, signed a resolution to print a new family. That means we're changing this entire old money, not just changing it, but bringing a new family of money, different money, on the market of $30 billion. We have the signature, we signed the resolution. as I speak to you, before we close, we did that resolution. The resolution with the office of the chief clerk should have been sent to the Library Senate before the Senate closed. So there is an existing resolution to print 30 billion new family of money, different one, to change the entire money from the market. So there have been no disagreement with the issue of printing new money for the country. So those who say that legislature have been doing, legislature have not doing. The legislature in that resolution sounded a caveat. Tell us the denomination in terms of the quantity. Tell how many $5, how many $100, how many $50, for example, how many $10, how many $20 you'll be printing. To bring up that money to or $30 billion. But with the passage or amendment version of the Central Bank Act, where they have to print only once within 3 years. So there is a need for a new analysis. Whether $30 billion in 30 years, $30 billion in 3 years is sufficient, or $50 billion or $40 billion. That's the new debate. The debate also is about the caveat. How sure are we that when the money is printed, that people will not take the money into their homes? People will not take the money to the mining sectors, for example, to pay their workers. So the confidence. What are you doing for confidence building? It's not only the central bank or the Ministry of Finance, but also the banking institutions. Are they properly decentralized, for example, King George, where you have maybe thousands of people working on the mining industry? Do you have a bank there that people will pay, that people will get that money? Are we moving into the digital world? Because even the most advanced country of the say this man has $2 billion, not $2 billion United States dollars, like just laying out in the bank, what the man will go withdraw, $2 billion. Liberia is the only country I think in West Africa where you can go and withdraw $1 billion tomorrow morning. Sierra Leone just lifted, they say you don't withdraw more than 10,000 United States dollars in Sierra Leone. They just lifted it up. Okay, at once. People go to the banking institution, sometimes they withdraw $500 million United States dollars. But the Christmas coming, what are they withdrawing it for? At once. What are the restrictions? So we need to know the measures that will be put into place. For example, do we have the digital system decentralized in rural like you always walk to a restaurant or certain restaurant? I'm not talking about Lapa Bidos. In like Lapa Bidos are the local ordinary restaurants. Okay, well, Oman and Sel. So can we pay with our card? Can all government workers be able to get a card, a Visa card, for example, and just swap it? When you go into the restaurant, you go to the store to go buy materials, for example, to swap them. So you don't have to have the physical cash moving around, for example. Okay, in the private sector, people are being paid. I don't know whether you get your pay through the banking institution, the KMTV, or they just give you your money in direct cash. People give direct cash to many of these private institutions, for example. Should we encourage these private institutions to go to the banking sector where they will deposit that money instead of holding cash and giving you the cash? Okay, so these are all of the measures. Holding, for example, where people go and buy money, stockpile money. And I'm saying, this has been a strong disagreement between members of the House of Representatives, some members of the Senate, not all of the members of the Senate, and the executive on one hand. They're saying, oh, holding is an Asian mentality. You can't force people to take their money to the bank, or people keeping money home and all of those things. We said no. I remember when President Sadiq came to power, it was alleged that people wanted to sabotage the government because rest is a political commodity in Liberia. They were taking the rest from Guinea. Okay, and K was being arrested. In this country, business people were being arrested for taking rest outside of Liberia and carrying it to Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. People felt that they would undermine the economy of the country. So can we issue an executive order where we are looking at legislation to make audit of crime? Okay. Or is it on economic sabotage? Because keeping money home is a national security threat. That people could jump into the streets. When checks are given to them, they go to the bank and they check box. And no money is in the banking institution. Should we put in security measures into banking institutions at the central bank, for example, and the local banks, for example? Because it is also widely believed that some of the people working at these local banks, some of them are doing businesses out there with money changers out there. And to demonstrate that, when you go to the banking institution, for example, some of them will say to you, oh, you want US dollar, well, I can call my money changer man. You want Liberian dollars, I can call my money changer man to bring the Liberian dollars. And sometimes you see some of these people bringing not just $500,000, but 10, 15, 20 million Liberian dollars. If you got US dollars, some people will bring it up. So why are these people working in huge amount of money in their homes? So the issue of printing the money is a foregone conclusion that we will print the money. Like people said, we need comprehensive report, for example, on the $4 billion of printed. There have been some reports made to the House of Representatives by the central bank. I can tell you that for sure. In fact, the central bank took all out of the $4 billion, they had $2 billion in store, and they were going to give it gradually to the banking institution up to this level as far back as November. Okay, we met them and they came to us with all of the banking institutions. The demands of the banking institutions were very high, but they provided the explanation how the money was getting up, how they were giving up the money. There's a comprehensive report they need to present to us. I know maybe they have not done that in the Senate because I also senators say we need a report. But yes, we need to call the central bank back. We need a comprehensive report in the House of Representatives on that. But there have been some scanty reports given to members of the House of Representatives. So printing the money is no issue, but another thing we should be concerned with. It's very important. Not just printing the money, but for security reasons, those who are in the banking sector will tell you this, economists will tell you this. You can't announce that you're printing money in December. Nobody announced that they're going to print money. Then you put the people on their life, and they run back with money. Mind you, Honor President Sullivan administration, $16 billion was printed. $16 billion is totality. 10 of the 16 billion, 11 to 10 billion of that money were not approved by the National Assembly. 5 billion was approved. I never signed the resolution. The records are there. Even Denson report, we had never signed the resolution. The resolution that came to the legislature was $5 billion. The $10 billion resolution, the legislatures, they had a caveat, they never approved the printing of that money. That money was approved or printed bogusly under the past administration. 90% of that $16 billion came under the past administration. How can the CDC sat and allow the very opposition who put the money on the market, who used the money, and put the blame on the current composition of the government?
Because there was no other conductor.
No. I'm saying to you, that's our PR aspect we defaulted for the last 3 years. And I said they will all mention my words. $16 billion printed under the past administration. In the operational funds at central bank, I'm not talking about a reserve board of $150 million. I'm not discussing the reserve that President said we were talking about. The operational, but not more than $5 million. That we made there. Civil servant pay is not less than $23 million. And we only made $5 million in the operation. But how come we allow the information to go out to the general public that they left $150 million? There are $150 million are reserved. Our reserve is kept outside of the report of Liberia. You don't just go into your reserve and use your reserve. That's why, in fact, when we came going into the reserve, the president made a public declaration that we're not going into the reserve no more of our country. So they left $5 million. $5 million. We feel like doing that. The central bank governor came publicly admitted. So you bring me directly to the PR strategy of the government. And I want to be very blunt. We got the biggest media institution operated by the government, EFBC. We have failed as national government to empower EFBC. We failed to take advantage of EFBC. EFBC is the CNN of Liberia. Whether you like it or not, I mean, it's no insult to your private owned station, but EFBC is really throughout the country to a great extent. They have a wide range of coverage. We fail to empower EFBC. We fail to attract the right people. And we must take responsibility. The Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, for example. Under President Sullivan for overt and covert. Under President Sullivan, you have $500,000, $500,000. When the minister could make determination to fight media warfare, cyber media warfare, on the internet, to do PR for the government, called KMTV, called Spoon TV, etc. Okay, to go and call them and do PR for the government. We fail on that. Not that we don't have people at the Ministry of Information to do that. So what have we done? We don't need to blame the Ministry of Information. We don't need to do that. We don't need to blame ERBC. We need to blame ourselves. Okay? And in blaming ourselves, okay, we have to ensure that we do the right thing. Internationally, we need to have some of the best lobbyists, the President said it. We need to have some of the best institutions internationally carrying our developmental agenda. In 3 years, Josh Weah has done extremely well in 3 years. In 3 years, low-income homes for disadvantaged people, the greatest rural rehabilitation and construction in the history of this country. So our PRO has killed us. No, I just wanted to emphasize on this. Our PRO has killed us. Even at the national legislature, it's not just at the executive branch of government. The national legislature will fail to empower our PRO. We fail to do that. The journalists will only take the bad news. They will not take the good news. And the reason is simple. Because this legislature has done so much well cooperating with the executive branch of government, not only when it comes to the balance of power, but when it comes to coordination. We've done extremely well. Some of the lawmakers have constructed public schools. I'm not talking about private owned schools. Cleanliness, some of them have rehabilitated roads, for example. We should have had our own radio station, the C-SPAN, in the United States of America that suggested that under the 50th third legislature, someone was placed into the budget. What happened when the God knows what happened to that amount of money. Whether it was a budget shortfall, but we needed like C-SPAN because there will always be a fight between the legislature and the executive branch of government. ERBC may not be carrying all of your news, but a legislative owned radio station covering the country, we appropriate, we allocate. We need to go full blast from the legislature. Let people see the debate on the floor. Let people see how we voted on the legislative floor. That's why I led that advocacy for the construction of a radio station in the legislature. The internet in that building, to a greater extent, and we need to put money into the budget for that. And we need to ensure not just putting money into the budget, but not for them to say there's a budget shortfall so we cannot generate that revenue, so they cannot get that revenue. So the PR strategy has been very bad. The guys, the opposition have succeeded to a greater extent in the last 3 years, running with fallacies on media institutions. Tomorrow somebody will jump out and say, Akara's great Pope was killed. And people on the social network will believe it. Somebody will say Nathaniel Magay died, or Inferno, and people will go and believe it. Because the counter strategy by us, we failed our people in terms of PRO, and we must admit, not that we're not doing the right thing, we're doing the right thing, but we've not succeeded in our PR strategy, and we need to do it. In the recast budget, let me be on record. If we do not consider the public relation aspect of this government and the people of the Republic of Liberia, I will not vote for the passage of the budget. I will not do that. I'm not on the committee on broadcasting, but I think it's a slap in the face of this administration. Okay, that you will build a military hospital that people will turn it around. Okay, today is contributing to the fight against the COVID. Okay, that you will do things in Nukutan, for example, in Doe community, for example. That you will be building one in front of Shuffling, for example. That in the roads, okay, in the southeastern region to a greater extent, some of the roads are being built. That in Nimba County, you'll be doing all of those things, and the PR is there. I will not support a budget that does not factor the PR of our country, and those who will be receiving such amount of money, we have to account for that amount of money. So,
you was one of those lead characters in the impeachment of Cameron. And as we speak, the ECOWAS court has ruled in favor of Mr. Janet and asking the government to pay a vision on that. What's your take?
let me tell you this. I believe during the campaign I never expressed an opinion. I made a decision I have no regret on in terms of my constitutional fulfillment. I took an oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. All lawmakers, including the President and the Vice President. One of the cardinal functions of members of the House of Representatives is to prepare the bill of impeachment. That's all responsibility for a cause. Who determine that cause? Is member of the House of Representatives that determine that cause. Who determine whether the cause is justifiable or not is the Senate. They remove. The Senate doesn't impeach. We impeach, and the Senate remove. And the Senate believes that the cause is justifiable. So it was a collective effort, even the opposition who cried David Ryan running around. I'm now a member of the Senate. It's dominated by the opposition. They removed Janet. We prepared the set of indictment against him. What's the argument? Why are people running around here and shifting blame? Be courageous enough to represent the great and take full responsibility for your actions and inactions. Don't run away. In fact, the issue that Janet was removed from office for, it wasn't one of the initial issues. I was thinking of my order there. Members of the Senate for the opposition, when we amended the impeachment bill in the House, they brought the issue of the road funds. That was the unanimous vote of all the counts that removed Janet from office. So why the opposition playing deception? When their lawmaker removed Janet and we prepared a set of indictment against Janet. What's the argument? But they run around and said, CDC moved the man. Oh, Vanish Sherman is CDC? No, I'm asking a question, for example. Okay? We only have three lawmakers. The CDC, only three senators. But they removed Janet. The cause we saw, they concur. The Chief Justice presided over it. Okay, so it's not argument. And listen, there need to be a national challenge. You gotta be careful. ECOWAS court is stopping beyond the bounds. Tomorrow, somebody could win the election here, and the Supreme Court could take a decision. And the ECOWAS court could overturn that decision of the Supreme Court. Every international law must commensurate with the domestic laws of our country. The highest decision-making body in Liberia is the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia, the judiciary branch of power. Impeachable offensive or impeachment bills are only prepared by the House of Representatives. The ECOWAS court cannot prepare a bill of impeachment. The ECOWAS court cannot tell how we should impeach somebody. They don't have that jurisdiction. There is an international debate ongoing. Okay. All humanitarian grounds, they can look into humanitarian issues. I know the Liberian government, I don't know whether they're challenging the process or whatsoever. Okay? But I can say to you, if I were Ghana, yeah, I would take advantage of the situation. Fair enough, yeah. I hold no malice against Ghana. And I want to say clearly, it was not a religious fight. Because I have more Muslim background. In fact, my melody is Musa. That's Moses. Grew up in Grand Cape, Montana. I was powerful. My great-grandfather was a Muslim. Okay? It was not a war against the Mandingo, because Vi is a rough form of Mandingo. I'm a Vi man. Okay? I listen to Mandingo a bit. In fact, Manjawa is a Mandingo, and you're really sharp. Manjawa, Abu Fufana is a Mandingo. He was a senior bodyguard of Kabina Janda. When Kabina Janda during the Muslim-Christian war, Manjawa was one of those who drove into the court of the way to serve. Manjawa, my current driver. My best friend in my life is a Mandingo, a Sana Sana, and a Muslim. That's my brother and my best friend in my life. One of my friends, but out of Fufana, who have grown academically. He's a Mandingo. So we wage no war on Mandingos. The sentimental argument will have to be desentimentalized. Because I have contributed to the mosques in my district than any lawmaker in the history of District 8. I've given to them, go take the microphone to all of the mosques in District 8. I've given to the mosques in my district even more than giving to the churches. I can recall one last that I rather give to the churches in my district compared to the mosque. Every Ramadan, sometimes they want to rehabilitate some of the area, take your microphone to Plumco Mosque. We have now less than 12 mosques, whether small one, whether a little room mosques. When the Ramadan is coming, whatsoever, we make sure that we contribute to our people. So some of those people on the social network who make a Mandingo argument, okay, I'm more Mandingo than them. I want to tell them I'm more Muslim than them. Okay, because I bear and inherit an Islamic name. My great-grandfather was a Muslim man, boy my latte great. Okay, he was a Muslim man, he died a Muslim. I lived with my great-grandparents in Grand Cape, Montana. They brought me up. They made me to see the reality of the war. Okay, so we never launch a war. The general issue should never be equated to a fight against Islam or a fight against Muslims. Because if you want to take a debate, when some of them were there, what did they do for the Muslims? What did they do for the Islamic community? Some of them even robbed some of the Islamic people. When we were doing the Jannah for you, this was right. There's a guy in Black Jannah era who said Jannah took his leg and robbed him financially of $40,000, United States dollars. We have those set of evidence, avalanche coming to us. Okay. So I have no regret, doesn't repeat, okay, for the action that I took. If we took action, the Supreme Court overturned our decision, for example, my duty and function is to abide by that. Once the Liberian government abide by the decision for ECOWAS, who am I? Not to abide by that decision. But did I perform my constitutional responsibility? I did that, and I have no regret.
Honorable, great to leave you taking into consideration today's holiday.
You can't just leave.
I'm not.
You got to ask all the questions because you came late.
Honorable, great. All right, you gave your
I
own
see my name on
analysis.
spoon, I'm just relaxing.
Give your own analysis on the proceeding of the government, then lastly we'll be talking about your success story and
Okay.
your
On
expectations.
the government, I will be brutally blunt. Brutally blunt. And you know why I'm blunt? I'm a stakeholder in the CDC. Alright. In the institution, I'm a shareholder. I boast of that any day in my life. Because I put my life on the line. When everyone is hyperbolic, that means being exaggerated, left the CDC. And people could not withstand hunger. And people could not withstand opposition life. It took an Icarus grade to maintain the establishment, the consistent existence of the mighty Congress for Democratic Change. In fact, I started calling the CDC the mighty Congress for Democratic Change. We feel of our people. We recruited Jeff Koji, who's a young guy after 2005 election. He used to be with Winston Tubman. The late Jean Grey, with his soul rest in perpetual peace. Grant, many of the young exuberance, Finabondo, rest of our women fighting forces, grassroots. They were looking up to us for guidance. Boba Moru, okay, all of those guys. We fought in the trenches of history. We put our life on the line. We took unprecedented risks when we have been executed. I would have been a dead man. I was ordered executed in this country if I resist arrest. The history is there. We're sleeping in ghettos and in slums. Now that we know our homes. There were moments in the history of the movement where we were asked, induced financially to leave our institution for 100,000 US. We were offered jobs. Ellen Jones said he was very brutal when it comes to being financially violent to attract anybody from your political institution. I'm not saying this sarcastically. In terms of giving you jobs, she recruited Louis Brown, who called her that she had desecrated the presidency than any president in the history of the country. Very vocal. She recruited Milton Teji. Very vocal person. She took Geraldine Doe-Sherry Lelate from the Congress of Democratic Change, the most powerful female in opposition. She recruited Darius DeLong by 2011. She took the creme de la creme of the opposition community during those days. We resisted to intellectual death for the survivability of the mighty Congress for Democratic Change. The CDC is our baby. But we talk about the faces of the movement. Just name a few. Our friends in the great United States of America. Some of them were helping to support the institution on the ground. Ambassador Weah was going to school to get a high school certificate, subsequently a bachelor degree, and then a master's program in and out of the country. We ran the institution strategically and politically. Okay, moving, giving the government a hard time, issuing press releases. statements. Going to talk show with all vehicle walking distance. Sometimes we walk for balance of time. Or get on bikes. Risk our life. Men like going home. I remember in the history of the struggle after 2005, I'll tell you this story. The movement were worried. Men were worried. People were crying. People have reverted to the personal life. Some of them have chosen to take a job in the government. Some of them have made commitment. That's why we are going to school. The mobile model you see today, one of the reasons for which I stand behind model most of the time, being at the detriment and survival of my job in this sense. Mobile model may not be the best person in life. He may not have all of the characters that people may think about. But he suffered in this country because of opposition like Mobile model he was arbitrarily arrested for 9 different times. He was arrested butt naked the first time in his Bible, brought or in front of his kids. Naked by the NSC. They took him to a cell. That was in 2007, no mistake. They went into his home and dislodged his family life and took his woman away financially. One day, Moro and I sat on the steps of City Hall and cried on each other. We thought that the war has neglected us. There are moments in the history of this country, some of our friends, we couldn't go to them. We couldn't visit ministries and agencies and government. We couldn't go to homes. When you go to home, it was a taboo to go to some people's homes. We felt neglected. At a point, Moro got disgruntled. Brought him back home. Decided to walk around school advocacy. We have many of the young cadres around here, some of them in the opposition today. So, make no mistake, we're going nowhere in the CDC. When I say I'll be brutally frank, there are some people who deserve living order. If I were the president of the Republic of Liberia, I would either shake the cabinet or dissolve the cabinet. Let me repeat it. If I were the president of the Republic of Liberia, I would either shake the cabinet or dissolve the cabinet.
These are some of the new programs.
Excuse me.
From the cabinet.
I will either dissolve the cabinet or I will shake the cabinet. I'm not looking for favor for anyone.
There are things that this government has very wrong with a fine person.
Excuse me. Come in. I'm not running away from anyone. I'm not running away from the facts. President has been very magnanimous. There are some of us who never made $100 and making $2,000. We're given a responsibility. The executive is the face of the government. The face, that's why the president is the commander-in-chief. Anything that happens in this government, the president will take responsibility. Because when the history of this country is written, they will say, we are administration bear this rule. Whether we pass legislation for it or not. Whether we brought the idea or not, they will say, honor we are administration, honor select administration. Read all the history books. They don't write it in the history that lawmakers are always introduced the code of conduct. Do they write that history? How many speakers you can be read about in the history of Nigeria? How many lawmakers you read about in the history of our country? So it's a presidential system that we are running. That's why the Constitution says the president is the head of government. That's the 3 branches of government. The president is the head of state. The 43,000 square miles. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Nigeria. The power invested in the presidency of the Republic of Nigeria. President has to act. 2 years have come and gone. 2 years have come and gone.
Do you see success?
And I've seen successes. I've seen gains. But the message has not been properly communicated, like I said to you initially. I've seen gains, I've seen successes, but the messages have not been properly communicated. We need to call a spade and revisit.
Who are those holding the messages?
No, like I said, for example, we need to empower EFDC. I've said that consistently. Do we have some of the good messengers? Yeah, we have some of the good messengers. There must be a monthly report of gains and successes by our appointed officials. President has to review that maybe you gave a minister or tax for 3 months. What is your performance report? Directly on the desk of the President of the Republic of Ghana.
Do you also agree that this government is run by 5 persons?
When you say the government is run by 5 persons, every president will have confidence. And let me come, I don't run away. Many persons have said Maggie and Troy run the government. Many persons have said.
What's that?
I will say to you clearly that the president has the ears of Maggie and Troy to arrest. I've had no malice against Maggie and Troy. Very brilliant young man. Troy is one of the most brilliant character in the history of the country. Because we went to school, they were rather see as December 19, 2001 boarding class. Troy, Maggie, and myself. I remember in Student, we thought that one day we'll make a president. Because we thought that soon had Dr. Sawyer and all those people there. This is the reality. A disagreement with the president respectfully, internally, is not a crime. Let me repeat. You don't have to disagree with the president of rumor. I know President William very well, he loves debate. If you sit closer to him, you will understand. He says, and he like to debate the issues with people. I know that very well. Okay? Whether you like it or not, in governance process, the Minister of State and the Minister of Finance, they take most of the blames. The Minister of State and the Minister of Finance. Not only under this government. Finance ministers are not very popular. If you think of mine, you remember short time, what people used to say about Emmanuel Shah? You remember Amara Koneka, what they used to say about Amara Koneka? You see Twitter, what they're saying about him? Finance ministers are not very popular with the people. Minister of State, the president has given an unprecedented leverage to our Minister of State, to our Finance Minister. My year, this guy will listen. I can tell you this. It's a very nice man. They all have to double up.
Do you think the leverage
Same way.
is working in the interest of the
Same way, I would advise him, if my dear Twain and I, we can have a lot of debates. You know, people say, I can't read yesterday. I'm one of those who disagree to a great extent internally. I don't have to come in the public and say it. People know my independence. Sam Twain is a very brilliant guy. He's been doing extremely well.
Are you trying to
He inherited, listen, I told you he's brilliant, it's the fight. You don't debate facts, you debate opinion, your records are there. Twain need to go beyond just the Ministry of Finance and put on the table all heads of all finance ministers, all existing central bank governors. I'm a good reader. You see the guy they call Archie Williams who had a historical site? Money shortage or this money issue, they only start under this administration or other person and said it. You Samuel Dotan, he posted something about it. How did they resolve it during those days? Forget about big way Amara Kone. Well, do the politics. Amara Kone wrote something recently, I went for him, right? Talk to him. He's all I do. Talk to Nathaniel Barnes, Weston Tappet, Emmanuel Shaw, David Farr. We got people who best central bank governors who lady, finance minister. How did they tackle these issues? Put them on the table. The maintenance of power is the greatest thing, not the acquisition of power. It's easier to acquire power than to maintain power. So if we succeed, if we bring all of these brains together and we succeed, the credit comes to us. It doesn't go to them. The finance minister takes the credit. Twain has to listen. Minister Samuel Twain has to listen. I can tell you this for sure. He has to listen, okay, to a greater extent, and listen well.
Is he not listening?
I think Twain has to go beyond and listen. Okay, Twain is a burden guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a nice guy. He gives a lot. He gives a lot.
He's not listening.
Okay, Twain is listening, but he has to listen more than listening. Call Sam Jackson back. Simon Freeman is here. Freeman, what is his name? Freeman from MPC. Put them on the table. Listen to them. Listen to everybody. Cross-fertilization of views. It started good with some economic forum program. You remember that time? It started good. Okay? If need be, bring the president to the table. Let him sit with them. Listen to every one of them. And forge ahead. It's about Liberia. And make no mistake. If this gesture is sustained by Samuel Troy to them, they themselves will have to volunteer to do it. Because guess what? If the CDC government is not in power and this country is messed up, the next government will inherit it. We inherited a mess. Today, nobody wants to hear about you inheriting a mess. They say clean it. We must clean the mess. If we don't clean the mess, the next government will have to clean the mess. You see, I look at the CPP people running around. The Unity Party, they clean the mess. Until you come and give them power to go clean the mess. How do we clean the mess? So we have to work as Liberians together. Our people, my two great friends, I don't want to name other people because I named Manjo, I named Toya. I'm not after people who call me. And I'm a very long guy. Those are my personal friends.
With the procedure
I can fight for them.
do you see CDC?
I can defend them. Oh wait, you raise a very good issue. Okay? You go in CDC, people raise issue internally. Also CDC, people raise issue internally. They have a job that George Weah had given to them and others, including myself as a lawmaker. We may not have never gotten this job had it not been for God, CDC, and George Weah. We cannot afford not to do the right thing for the Liberian people. And when I told you that people will get annoyed with me, because we'll be very robust in the legislature. You see the true coloration of our courage we're fighting on the legislative floor. I will not agree with everything from the executive, even as chairman of the executive. Otherwise, the speaker can take the job from me now. Yes. If agreeing with everything from the executive means that I must remain chairman of the executive, let the speaker take the job from me. I don't want the job. Because we'll debate the issues, we'll take our sleeves, we'll fight at party meetings, or we'll come up with one voice. And that voice is to do what the Liberian people say. And we must do what the Liberian people say. We're elected to do that. Okay, we're elected. The emotions and sentiments are very high. The anxiety of the Liberian people is very high. The same people that can say, Lord, Lord, the same people can say, crucify him. The same people who say, Lord, Lord, and Jesus Christ, the same people who say, crucify him. So we shouldn't sit in our comfort zone and believe that if we don't do the right thing for the Liberian people, they will guarantee us 2023. We got 3 more years to go. This year must be the turning point. The decisive movement. This year. If the need be at a point in time, that will stand in the public glare and say, Mr. President, Minister A is not doing well for the country. Okay, look at the agricultural sector. The agriculture minister has done nothing. All the donor funds that come in. Look, I'm not pushing up. I just talk about Troy Maggie. I'm not pushing, not because she's not from the inner side of the CDC. But the minister is doing nothing. Most of the projects, the billions of dollars that come in, the president has to sit with the agriculture minister. The governors, we have to sit with the agriculture minister. How do you attract farm to road projects? In the past, it was there. Okay? What are your priorities? Because the very people you gave in the donor money to for rubber plantation and other things, are the same old school from the 60s and the 70s. Millions of dollars going towards them. Millions of dollars coming again to Liberia reason will be coming. I want the media institution to go and tear that place into pieces to see where the millions are going, even under the past administration. We're talking about over 100 million from past administration that we're discussing here. We're talking about $10.8 million currently. We need a vigorous agricultural revolution in China. Besides the great leaf hour, they have what they call the agricultural revolution to feed our population. Okay? When the president made that pronouncement last year about agricultural revolution, okay, I was very clear. When they brought, it was a good beginning. There are challenges she has to say. But please don't take our money and give it to no old papi and who get a rubber farm and plantation around here to empower the same old people. I'm telling you something serious. That's one of the areas when we go back, I'll be very robust. The police, the justice ministry, they have to do that way. If the justice minister is conflicted, the president has to take a decision.
Is it that the president
For example,
people that are not doing their work?
No, I'm saying to you people, some people have failed to do that way.
And what
The president gave you a job, you must do your work.
did the people
Now,
that
what I
are-
said, you are the president, I dissolve the cabinet, I will shake the cabinet up. And I'm convinced that the president will have to do that. Otherwise, the president will take the blame. And President Weir is aware. I'm very blunt.
And if it continues 2022,
Trust me, I'm not prepared to fail. I know President Weir is not prepared to fail.
do you see success in 2023?
We can win. We just need to put one or two things together. We can win. Look, let me tell you this. We are the governing party. And why should we allow the opposition to run with the narrative? Nowhere. We can sit down and I get the formula up. Let the politicians make the political decisions. Where in the world, make no mistake, and the Secretary General of the Unity Party, Mo Ali, called on the last program I appeared on OKFM last year. Nowhere that a ruling party wins an election and don't empower your own people. Don't never make that mistake. When the government failed, they say CDC. All the people you gave job to from other parties, or that you maintain when you came to power, once they undermine this government, they will say, oh yeah, we're in the government, the blame will go on the president. The blame will go on the president. I'm not saying take jobs. No, 95% of civil servants are inherited. All documents are leaking around. Directors were not civil servants, but today they are civil servants. Procurement directors are civil servants. Honor Ellen Johnson before she left. She provided tenure positions for institutions where there should have been tenure positions. Those people don't hold loyalty to this administration. Many of them, they hold loyalty to the past administration and still reporting to members of the past administration. There are things that I can't even say in the public life. Okay? If I were the president of the Republic of Liberia, I will appoint people to all of those positions, if they need be. Except maybe the National Elections Commission, maybe the LCC, the Governance Commission, for example. Put them there, I go to the court, go run to the Supreme Court. After Jackson ran to the Supreme Court, the ruling is out today. The Constitution of Liberia protects the president to appoint a way and pleasure. And you must work in accordance to the way and pleasure of the president. If President Salif pleasure, way and pleasure, was to have any position, now way and pleasure. But it's not a way and pleasure. Read the Constitution. So we passed a law providing tenure position. I disagreed. And I can tell you, this year will be one of the challenges. I will run to the Supreme Court and challenge these tenure positions. Some of the people tenure position in the third year into our government, some fourth year into our government. Some fourth, they're not loyal to you, you did not appoint them, they're still reporting to their political czars and czarinas. Okay? So, the agriculture sector should create more jobs for the people of the Republic of Liberia. That sector is a sector that, look, a lot of donor funding, when you go to the agriculture ministry, you have some of the money that can buy, you put your hand on your head. The donor funding, whether they and the donors in cahoots, or whosoever in cahoots, we need to expose it. Okay, we need to expose that. So, the issue of shaking the government or the dissolution of the cabinet, I will not regret. I don't care who talk to me. I don't care if you go on radio tomorrow. You talk about Akaros. My skin is very thin. You see what Akaros and my CDC people job? I say yes. I said it from the onset of this government. Okay? I said it from the onset of this government. The Alvatoba, the Phil Dixon, or friends in CDC USA, the Gabla Williams, the rest of the people, if they deserve job, give them job. Give them the job and let them do the job. If they don't perform, fire them tomorrow morning.
Will you be on the ballot?
Okay. 2023, I've had no intention of being on the ballot paper. I've said that and said that consistently. I know the hierarchies of the CDC in my districts and other people who are trying to talk to me. The will of the people is different from my will. Let me repeat. The will of the people is different from my will. Okay, at times you listen to the will of the people. So the will of the people is different from my will. You ask me, from the day I won the election, I went on air. I said that I didn't want to contest. A lot of people have been asking me that you need an Akaros grade in the legislature to help stand up for the right things. What else?
Lastly,
What is your success
I
story
thought
in this
I speak about election.
And before we go to that, what's your take on the speaker, deputy speaker position now? We have a gap.
The deputy speaker position is the interest.
Do you have interest?
No.
And
No.
who you be supporting?
And I'm a seditious. We are what you said today. Now, yeah, against my president. Before the runoff election in 2017, we came here. Were few. The current deputy speaker, Prince Moe, Thomas Fada, me, Samuel Koga, Clarence Massaquoi, and Elvis Snow Jones subsequently. Jeremiah Kuhn was there. I'm sorry to my colleagues order if I cannot call some Joe Penner. Okay, and we came here. We were supposed to Unity Party and CDC. And we sat here and we proposed that we are all lawmakers and we have the experience. So there's a need to go for the speaker and the deputy right after the first round of the election, before going to the presidential election. Now, if Unity Party wins the presidential election, we'll give them the speaker position. Every president wants to win the speaker.
And then Renugo was in the legislature.
Yeah, and then he was passed when he made the fight. Yeah, to Joseph Waka. So if we win, we'll take the speaker position. So we had a gentleman understanding. That brought Prince Boy, deputy speaker, and Puffer Chinos. The question now is that whether the gentleman understands the state exists. That been the question. In fact, that how even committees were being divided. So if you for other institutions, you either go the CDC way back there, or you go the Unity Party way to absorb everybody. The question that have been asked whether the agreement still stands. It's a tricky question. I've said to my counterpart in the Unity Party that we have no agreement with CPP. Gentlemen understand there were no CPP. We have one gentleman understanding with Unity Party and not CPP. They are in a collaborative effort. But they had an agreement with the Coalition for Democracy. That was gentlemen understanding. The variables don't appear to be the same. Let me repeat. The variables don't appear to be the same.
You understand?
There are people in the CDC who want to contest. For example, from the Tico 5 want to contest. Creighton Donkey want to contest. There are people in the Unity Party who want to contest. Larry Massacre wants to contest. Richard Kuhn wants to contest. Nimale from Lofa County wants to contest. The independent area, CDC, Bremen Bridge wants to contest. Yoga Korba wants to contest. Suakoko wants to contest. Okay, the woman from Nima County. No, not Larry Nyankwe. Or Johnson Garnock wants to contest. Or Samuel Koga wants to contest. So, this time we have too many questions. We have too many. I have Goswa from Grand Bassa County, and all he wants to contest. Yaga Korba wants to contest. He made it public with clear. So in the CDC, I'm only two persons who want to contest. Creighton Donkey and Fanatico. I also know that when I run away from people are talking about geographic balance, which is a factor also. However, you see in the legislature, people vote on interest. It depends on the interest. So sometimes geographic balance may appear in the public light, but it may not exist.
And where's your interest?
My interest, the CDC. My interest.
Well, you got two persons
They could make a determination. We're still consulting.
there.
There's nothing carved in stone whether the collaborative effort the Unity Party will go or whether CDC will carry it can. The CDC National Executive Committee and the Legislative Caucus have now met to take a decision on that.
Why if there's no understanding with you?
If there's no one.
Understanding with
The decision of the CDC will be my decision. Let me repeat. We'll sit in us, we'll bear analysis, we'll debate the issues. If the CDC says the opposition should carry it, we'll be there. If the CDC say the sedition should be, we'll be there. I want to sound a caveat to the opposition. Nobody can become deputy speaker in our place with all CDC collaborative efforts. We have the numbers. The three representative from San Luis County that are Unity Party recruited all. Namesh Law passed a word, we told Namesh, sit back. Muna seat was sedition. Haja Fata from the Unity Party, Bomi County, recruited that. There are other people I don't want to call name, they are collaborating with us. You only need 37 persons. Let me repeat. The CDC can get 37 persons if they are committed to vote in one way and take it. Let me repeat. The CDC can do that. But also, will there be political ramification? 15 persons on that floor, 10 can hold the legislative floor and disrupt energy. 15 fighters. Even 2 strong fighters on the legislative floor in the House can cause serious unbalance even for the Speaker of the preside system. So we have to consider all of these factors as an institution and make a determination for the stability. I think I saw Amara Reddy, my friend, he said balance of power. Those people can create, deputy speaker can create balance of power. Because the vice president, what the deputy speaker will do? If the speaker does, if the speaker, they can only preside when the speaker is not around. Administratively, the chairman or executive run the rest of the colleagues.
Finally,
Administratively.
finally.
Okay, some of the team before the deputy speaker have hear it, the chairman or executive have to hear it from the executive mansion, you could decide that you will not him the deputy speaker.
Finally.
You will only him the speaker and few colleagues. So that balance of power, don't never, if you bring that, and the one for us to show is a show of political force and strength, it will be bad for them.
Honorable
Yeah,
Finally.
so nobody must live interior around here passing around. It's good for us to resolve things inward, and I don't think even the Unity Party want to hear that thing called balance of power, deputy speaker, that politics. Okay, because there is no way the executive can work with all the legislature, and there is no way the legislature can work with all the executive branch of government. That's why the Constitution says coordination. Okay, though they say balance of power, and it says separate branches of government, but there is stand in history, in the great dynastic history, where you have strong presidency, and there's stand where you have strong Congress. So in Liberia, it will be the trend in years to come.
Honorable Gray, what's your expectation for Johnson on both the CDC?
We expect that as Liberians will work in harmony. And let me say, all those that believe that are wrong in 2020, I ask that they're back on me back on. Those who wrong me, I'm one of those guys who never hold malice against anyone. Okay, I never hold malice against anyone. It's about time that we work together as Liberians, that we forge ahead for the betterment of our country. Okay, I expect that the CDC will do both, not just in PR, but our appointed officials must shake. Okay, we must work with people in the opposition who want to work with us. Like I said, loyal opposition. There's no crime when we have loyal opposition. Even you could see Mayton Teddy were working with Ellen at a point in time. She brought in Bruce Brown, became information minister, for example. We should open up to each and every Liberian who want to work with us. We should also weed out from this governance cycle those who undermine the government. It's clear, not just our appointed officials, but there are people who undermine the government. They feel the records are there. If I were advising also the president, I'm not advisor to the president, as a lawmaker. But we need to recall all ambassadors. All, not dismiss. All ambassadors. All appointed officials are the very ambassadors to all Liberia. There are people in these embassies that you may not know. There are consular generals appointed under the past administration who are there Liberian ambassadors. There are some countries you see Liberian flags being flown, you will not even know. We need to write all foreign countries. Now, all of these people, the foreign ministry, they have to bring all of them back and vet them. Some of these people are not selling the image of the government. Look, I see people, for example, in Japan, and some other areas. I see people working in the embassy, writing statements against the government. It doesn't have, diplomats don't get involved into politics. I see them. There are people who are just sitting in foreign land with their children. They're not to be ambassadors. minister, counselor, and other areas. They sit around the wall and the bottom of the administration. The president needs to appoint commercial attaches that will attract investors throughout the embassies of this country, Japan, China. If they are not performing, take the jobs from them. Need to attract more investors. The embassy got to get involved into that. So all of these people, we need to bring them back home. I'm not saying dismiss them, because to dismiss ambassadors, you have to take some time. Okay? Because those are veterans. They are deputies, for example. These people that are out there, some of these people on the presidential administration, they just collected and they told their children whatsoever in the embassy. They're undermining the governance process of our country. They go sit in meeting to talk bad about the government. Very bad, you'll be shocked. So we need to bring them home here. If the need be to revert them, if the need be to send even some of our people to be groomed. There are dream areas in the embassies where people are being groomed. From Tobo Town, from Topman Town up to now, there are cadets. Okay? Some of our kids can go and start a cadet's job to grow up in the diplomatic cycle. It's very important. Send some of these children out of the country. In Africa, schools are cheap in Rwanda, for example. University education, for example. Not more than 3,000 US annually. I'm telling you, if you spend 5,000 US, it's good. Even feeding everything, 5,000 US on some universities in Rwanda. Even in East Africa. Okay, so we need to concentrate on our base. We need to concentrate on youth programs in our country. We need to revisit the water program. You know, every individual to take our guys away from all along the water program. We cannot neglect that because most of them are our people. Okay, so we need to do more. I want to encourage our friends in the executive that when you see us being robust, it's not a malice, okay, against us. It's not a malice against Centroy, not a malice against not my guild. Close up to the president now, they have the president years, you know, they need to step up their games, they need to do more, they need to look at a spade and call a spade a spade. Some of these people will be ministers, also my guild, some of them will be managing directors. They just take family members and carry them to non-ministers and agencies in this country. People who don't even believe in the struggle. We need to expose them. Okay, we need to revisit, even the Capitol building, for example, the central administration. There are people who don't come to work. There are a lot of ghost names. We inherited. People sit in the Capitol building, yeah, for example, the top politicians, so that they don't go to their offices. I'm not talking about our staffers. I'm talking about central administration who are civil servants, for example. Some of the lawmakers just took people and went and dashed them there. We need a comprehensive cleanup of the entire central administration. I don't say take jobs from people. But ghost names, you got to take it out. Tell them I'm not pushing for taking daily bread. And people must go to their offices and sit in their offices and work from their offices. Not to be in the Capitol building yard and make the entire yard noisy. We even got to be on the security. You saw it last time I keep on going in that yard in case that guy was going into that building and put the building on fire. So we need top-notch security protection of the Capitol building. It's very important because we are moving in critical time where somebody could run into your office, disgruntled people and put that place on fire or shoot you up. Okay? So we will be very tough. The message is clear, the ratings are on the line. I want to appreciate our friends in the cyberspace there, KMTV, or the other TV, yeah, Spoon TV also. Want to appreciate each and every one of you for coming to my beautiful home. And again, let me say, I say a beautiful home because I honestly work for it. And I never took the resources to construct what I have.
Thank you so much.
And so it's a beautiful home.
Thank
and
you.
I hope you can come here with share pleasantry.